Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trader's Mind Chat live show. Today, we'll be talking about stock market analysis, global macroeconomic economic news, trend analysis, sector leaders. So, before we dive into everything, if you guys could type into the chat, let me know where you're watching from. Click the like button, click the subscribe. That'll help blast this out to a lot more people. And of course, we greatly appreciate it. As we go through, put your questions into the chat. This is meant to be highly interactive. So without further ado, let's kick things off. I will share my screen and let's go through some charts. So first things first, the news, the headlines, and how it's impacting the market. So let's come over here. All right. I actually thought that this was somewhat amusing today. So something that I've been doing is tracking the daily headlines, and I am keeping notes on them. And I found this over here from some of the major publications that I'm tracking. So I'm tracking Investors Business Daily, Market Watch, and Benzinga Pro. Benzinga Pro gives you a little bit faster information, so that's why I like them. But I wanted to see how well what some of the headlines are and how they translate onto the chart. So anyway, long story short, thought this was very comical to see from Investors Business Daily today. The headline read, "Stock market plunges as inflation is the highest since 1982." Now, what is funny about that? Well, what's funny is if you look at this chart, where would you say that the stock market plunged? Right? Take a look at this chart. It's a daily chart of the S&P 500. Where would you say that the stock market plunged? Would you say that it plunged, I don't know, maybe over here, right? Like that looks kind of like a plunging day, or maybe earlier in the day over here, that's a plunge. Even this, or maybe even this back here on March 8th. Well, what is March 8th? That's today's Thursday, so that would make this Tuesday, right? Yeah, I think that's Tuesday. Yeah, either here or Monday. Both of those days are plunging kind of days, right? Where you get this larger spike down. You're down about 3% on Monday, 3.25%. You close near the lows of the day. Then over here, the following day, right? Like you're down how much on the day? Only about 0.25%, but the daily range about the same as the day immediately before it, right? Then you take a look at the headline and what was the headline again? Let's pop back over here. And the headline was stock market plunges, right? Stock market plunges. Not much of a plunge, but it goes to show that it's not about it's more about what catches eyeballs versus what's telling the actual story. So when we're looking at markets, I always like to say this, and it's something that I preach to our members. It's something that I preach to you guys, social media following, all of it. There's really two stories being told, right? There's a story that's being told by news outlets, and there's the story that's being told by the tape, by the market. We look at this, and you could see from way back here, right, that we've been in a downtrend. This is more of a plunge. This is like a nothing day, right? So don't let the headlines get us bent out of shape here. Looks like there's some comments coming in already. Matt is one of our current elite members. Welcome to the show, Matt. Let's keep rolling. Yes, as you guys have questions or comments, please post them into the chat. So let's see. Well, what else? Well, what other headlines? I don't want to pick on my friends too much over at IBD. I love those guys. One of the reasons why I'm even here and doing this kind of stuff, right? Like from the wisdom uh, that I learned from them early on. Um, Here's what MarketWatch has to say. Right. So MarketWatch says 12 dividend stocks paying at least 3.5% that are well suited for high inflation. Um, what is the current inflation? I'm not quite sure, but when you see things that also say like the highest inflation since '82, like it's very captivating, right? Like it makes you want to go and read. And well, is it really that bad? Well, not quite. Thought this one was interesting from Benzinga Pro, right? Like this is actual information that might be useful. Benzinga Pro says aid to Ukrainian President Zelensky says Ukraine is ready for a diplomatic solution with Russia. So that's something that could turn markets. Well, we'll see what happens here. At least relieve part of one of the major components affecting markets right now. Again, well, we'll see. What Something else that I thought was quite interesting, though, and I was speaking with one of our members and a client that I work one-on-one with twice a week, was about the trends here, monthly trends. And so part of the conversation was surrounding, like how we were basically out of the market back here, in November, like mid-November, uh, mostly out back in November, like primarily out in shorting over here. He was shorting it in February. It's like, well, how much more could markets fall, right? Well, at this stage, like if we're trying to think like, well, where are we and where is the next major level of support if the markets were going to continue to fall, right? Where's support on this? So on a monthly chart, support is way down here, right? Maybe you can make an argument for this level right here. And let's make the dots a little bit bigger. Make them in yellow. So there's that one, and there's this one here. Basically looking at September highs from 2020 or the February highs from 2020 as major support levels. Kind of jives with this rising 36-month moving average. We're looking at the S&P 500, right? And so if price were to continue to fall, it's got about another 15 to 20% to go to test those levels on the S&P 500. Quite interesting. Um, One of the things that this client and I were talking about too was the V-shaped recovery from 2020, how such a move is unsustainable, right? Of course, it's unsustainable. But yeah, if this were to just consolidate off the highs, right, like it's a 25% pullback. If you're talking about a stock, or at least the types of stocks that we typically trade, right? If you're watching this, you're probably trading somewhat similar to how we are, right? Like looking for growth stocks, momentum stocks, looking for those larger uh, larger moves. A 25% correction is normal. So you've got that on the S&P. On the Nasdaq, you've got roughly a 23% left to go to test those prior highs. On the Russell, You've got about 13%, 13.5% to test these prior highs back from January, February of 2020. 14% for New York Stock Exchange, and about the same over here on the Dow. So long term, if we are to test those, there's plenty of space for it to continue to decline. And thus far, it's been a very grindy chop fest, right? Like very different than the type of decline that we had back here in 2020, right? Where things just plummeted and it was fairly easy to make money on the short side, right? Like you just short something, it fell. Very similar to how the rally was back here. You bought something, it went up. Hey, a lot of people finding out now, a lot of the newer people to the market, finding out that things are a little bit different, that uh, things can be a little bit choppy, a little bit whipsawy. And so it's one of the reasons why learning how to gauge market conditions is so important. How do you gauge when a market is choppy or smooth? And how do you gauge when it's transitioning between one and the other? Because uh, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we also want to be in at the right time to be there for the period that's best going to serve the type of systems that we trade. So that's part of what this show is about, part of what this particular live stream is about. How do we gauge and find those transitional periods? Well, so far we're in the chop fest, right? We're in downtrends on the monthly time frames with room to move to the downside. Over here on the weeklies, right? Like it would seem that there's some reason to find a little bit of a bottom over here, right? You have a high volume reversal week. You have another high volume reversal week over here, right? Some buyers are stepping in. So it's one of those like grindy kind of periods where you can make some money to the downside fairly quickly, but you also need to cover those shorts fairly rapidly too. On Tuesday, when Stu was with us. Stu is, for those of you that don't know who Stu is one of our coaches inside the Mara Elite Trading Program. Um, he shorted Squarespace right here, right as it was um, starting to find resistance along the 50-day moving average and locked in gains along the way and was stopped out of the remaining shares yesterday. Relatively quick, right? So that how long did that trade last? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Was able to capitalize on it quite a bit with about 25% added to the account uh, in only a week. But you got to be Johnny on the spot with this because we're not just in a downtrend, we're in a very choppy, grindy downtrend. Um, any questions on any of this so far? Please, please, please ask the questions. Fire away. Put them into the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. What if you have questions on anything that I'm saying, or if there's anything in particular that you'd like to comment on or would like me to cover. Talking specifically to you guys over here on YouTube, over here on Facebook, and over here on ShareVision. Type into the chat. Let me know. Coming over here to the daily charts, and you can see that we're in a downtrend, but we're consolidating within a downtrend, right? Where we haven't made lower lows yet. We're getting some a little bit of a rally, like you're starting to see the short-term moving averages coil around each other. 5, 10, 21-day exponential moving averages. Um, it and also over here, well, one of my favorite indicators, just simply the number of stocks making new highs versus new lows down here, uh, beginning to dry up. It's one of those things that shows when the selling is a bit exhausted, a little bit overdone, and you get these little relief rallies. Almost every time we start to get a spike, it correlates with a short-term rally. This is barely even a spike, and we got a quick move up. We'll see what happens. Um, I'm not super confident that this uh, turns around it all up. Like there's a lot of headwinds that this needs to go through on a technical basis to reverse this into to an uptrend. A few of them, right? So you're below all the moving averages at this point. Needs to climb back above each one of them, and each one will provide a layer of resistance, meaning that when price gets to that level, people that are trapped from back here might say, "Oh, thank God, let me get out." Right? There's all that. So it's got each of the shorter term moving averages, the 5, the 10, and the 21. Then it needs to get above the 50-day moving average, and all this from back here. So quite a bit of headwinds that the markets need to go through to reverse the trend back to the upside. So the path of least resistance for now is still to the downside. Looks like we've got a comment in here coming from Bushan. Bushan says, "How do we want the markets to behave to come in an uptrend again?" Great question. So uh, let me get my spreadsheet out because I think that it does a fabulous job of showing this. So give me a second over here. Open this file. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to color code things. And so you notice how over here, like I have a color code chart that says like green, yellow, and red. Um, One of the things that we want to look for, and let me zoom in a little bit so you could see it better and get my head out of the way, right? So one of the things that I like to look for is, are these smooth, right? Like, are these all black, like not transitioning, not flip-flopping back and forth? Like, you see how over here there's a lot of color changes? That's that's one thing that's showing, and it's just taking the same data that I'm seeing over here on the chart, but it's expressing it in a different way, showing how we're flip-flopping back and forth between different types of trends. So over here, for example, the weekly time frames, we're flipping between sideways, sideways negative, was sideways negative for a couple of days, then back to sideways. Um, well, when you're having that kind of flip-flopping back and forth, it's indicative of chop. So what does a smooth market look like? What does a good market look like? Well, we started to transition. We The last really good time period for my trading system was back in between the beginning of October to the middle of November. Like that's when it was pedal to the metal. I had the most amount of positions on that I had in, I think, all of 2021. I had about 15 positions on. For me, that's a lot. And was basically like uh, fully margined at that point. but we shifted into a green condition, and one of the things there is uptrends across the board. Um, for the most part, like you're not seeing like this the choppy transitional periods. Um, you're seeing the number of new highs outpace the number of stocks making new lows. And then perhaps the most important thing, Bashan, like if I had to like gun to my head, most important thing is this here. The the actual trade ideas that we're finding. The reality is that everything matters, right? Like, so it's never just taking one thing and saying, okay, we've got this. It's always a compilation of everything. But if I had to give one thing a little bit more weight, it would be the trade ideas. So you see, like how over here there were 81 trade ideas this week, and the vast majority of them, 75% to 80%, were winners each day. To me, that means that, okay, I could close my eyes, reach into the bag, and pull out a winner, right? Or pretty close to being able to do that. That's a great environment. When I'm looking at this, when I'm looking at the quality of the trades that I have. So I go through my whole list and I grade the trades. If I'm finding what I consider to be very high quality trades, then that's another thing that's a great environment. So back here, it was okay, reach your hand into the bag and you're likely to pull out a winner. And not only that, you're likely to pull out an A level trade. So that's well, what to me, what makes a great market. Uh, Fast forward to the current environment and we've got mostly C-level setups, not as many trade ideas, right? There were back then we had 80, now there's only 34, and most of them are losers, right? So the meaning that not that you put your hand into the bag, most likely you're pulling out a losing trade. So that's not the type of environment that I want to be trading in. And here's another thing. uh, Even if I'm not actively trading, I still want to do this homework every single day because it's giving me these great insights. So right now, I only have one active trade, that being ERF, which we've spoken about a bunch of times already. We'll take a look at it again in just a little bit. But yeah, I'm not putting on trades right now because most of them are of low quality and the environment is a red environment, which to me means that it's not the right type of environment for my style. So sit out, and that's one of the great things at the market. That one of the great things about trading, right? We don't have to play every single hand. We don't have to take every trade. Can we can take only the trades that are best suited for our systems, and that's the only time that we should be trading. Definitely did not be need to trade all the time. Lee in the house. Yeah, things are good on my end, Lee. Good to see you. Let's get back to this. All right, so where were we? So trend analysis. Basically went through the whole trend analysis. Let's talk about the sectors and the sector leaders. So this is where energy has been huge and continues to be huge. I have this one trade on for right now, swing trade that was started. I'll take my annotations off. Like I always like to mark up my charts quite a bit. This is what my chart looks like without any of my annotations on. So there's not that many indicators. There's a handful of moving averages. All those lines, those are just moving averages. There's this down here, which is the relative strength versus the S&P. This thing down here, which is just the percent daily range. So I know the average range of price over the past 20 days. And this up here, which is stochastic. That's it. So got into this down here, down around this level, and it's already hit two scale outs. My stop is above break even, and I'm just sitting with this trade and letting it continue to work. Um, Aside from energy plays, uh, yesterday saw some transports that were setting up. A couple more energy. Agriculture is still doing well, but for the most part, these are not fantastic setups. And like that, this was at the time. This was probably the best setup that I saw, VRTX. But even this, when I dove even deeper into it, there were some flaws in this one, so I didn't put an order for it. Let's see. So, um, not sure if this is a question or a comment, but Lee is saying that he's been having trouble taking profits. So, uh, when we have trouble taking profits, there could be a few reasons why. Number one is with planning. Number two would be just following the plan, right? I think we could boil it down to those two things. So let's start there, and let me know if we're close. So having the plan. So planning where to take profits. The way that I like to take profits is to have multiple ways to do it. So, for example, when I am first going to place a trade, and this is true of any trade that I'm going to take, I like to figure out exactly where am I going to enter the trade, where am I going to cut the trade at a loss, and what my general target is for the trade. And every time that I get a multiple of what I've risked, in this case about 7%, now I'll take something off the table. So I took a small bit off when I got to one times my risk. Then I took off half the position at two times my risk, right? So I'm out of half of the trade at this point. My stop gets moved to break even. So I've sold offensively, and now I've got a defensive play down here where if price were to just shoot down, then I'll cut the rest of the trade at break even. That's part of how I like to take profits. Another way has to do with these moving averages. So, depending upon how price behaves around the moving averages, I will take off either part of the trade or all of the trade. That's another type of uh, defensive sell, but at this stage, it's profitable. So that's another way to lock in profits. I like to have four ways to exit trades, right? At least four ways. Selling at different targets, right? So these are multiple targets. Another way being the moving averages. Third way being what I call a backstop, where I'm setting a stop loss below some level of price structure. In this case, I'm looking at this right here as price structure because price broke out, it pulled back, and then moved, it made higher highs. So this becomes a significant low. There's that. And then that's the third way to exit with a profit. The other way to exit a trade is cutting a loss. So there's all that. So that's the planning part. The So then if we have trouble, if we have the planning part, but we don't have, but we have trouble following the plan, then it's a question of asking ourselves, well, why do we have trouble following the plan? And that could be a variety of reasons, right? But the idea is to always begin with why. Uh, why do we have trouble following it? It might be that we have trouble on the execution part, right? Like if we're let's say that you're in school, right? And part of the executing the plan happens in the middle of a class. Well, that might be a reason why you have trouble executing. Great. So if that's the case, we need to come up with a different plan that we're able to execute a little bit better. If it's a matter of, uh, you know, not believing in the plan itself, like you're second guessing the plan, then we need to figure out, well, why are we second guessing the plan? Could be a variety of things there as well. Need to dive into all these kinds of things. Uh, Another way to look at it too, has to do with habits. Do we follow through on the things that we say that we're going to follow through on? Um, when we come up with a trading plan, it's basically saying that here's what I'm going to do and here's what I'm going to follow through on. Well, if we have a habit of not following through on things and a habit of, just doing whatever strikes us in the moment, well, then we're just following our habit of tossing plans aside and, uh, doing what we feel in the moment. So it's where people call about discipline. It's less of a discipline thing. I think that we all have discipline. It's just what are we disciplined about? Some of us are very disciplined at doing whatever the heck we feel like. Right. Some of us are very disciplined at hitting the snooze button. Some of us are very disciplined about having the extra piece of cake, right? Or cleaning our plates. So it's not that we lack discipline. We just have discipline in the wrong things. So then it becomes a matter of changing habits. And that's a different rabbit hole that we could go down. But I think you get the idea. So um, those are a few ideas uh, about trouble taking profits. Um, yeah, and Stu's good. Stu was on the show on Tuesday, so go check out Tuesday's show if you want to see some Stu. Stu is going to be joining us again on next Tuesday as well, so tune in for that. Uh, what else do we got? So we spoke about sectors and industry groups. We're basically doing the open Q&A portion and just kind of dove into that a little bit early. So let me know, well, what kind of questions do you have for me? Questions about anything that's related to markets, questions that's related to individual trades, trading in general. Let me know. And while we're at it, if you like the stuff that we're doing here, then you're really going to enjoy the Mara Elite program. If you'd like to find out more about the program, shoot me an email over at code@marawealth.net and we'll tell you more about it. Plus, we'll send you a discount to get into the program. So again, code@marawealth.net, and I'll leave this up for another moment or two, and then I'll put it back. Let's see. We've got some other stuff coming in. Thoughts on Nvidia? Let's pull up Nvidia. And saw a comment from Brian. Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you. Brian says that he's enjoying the videos. Great stuff. Thanks, Brian. So, thoughts on Nvidia? Nvidia is kind of similar to where some of the major indexes are, isn't it? Where it's in this downtrend, so lower highs, lower lows, seemingly had some level of support around here. Oh, let's get rid of those drawings. Just have this one here. Some level of potential support around there, but let's see what that looks like on some of the other time frames. Right, so price ran up, parabolic move, and now it's been in this decline, and it's declined how much off the top? 41% so far. Well, we'll see what happens. Right? Like they probably the question is, well, do I think that it's bottoming? It might be. It might be. You certainly have an argument for bottoming, right? With price coming down over here and then spiking higher, testing the same level, spiking higher, testing the same level again, spiking higher. But while it's doing that, you also notice that it's making a series of lower highs, right? So if it keeps on knocking on this door, it'll eventually have one of two ways to go, right? Loosely drawn trend line over here. It'll eventually have one of two ways to go, right? It's either going to break out or break down. Personally, I would wait to see what it does. Right? Like I wouldn't buy in right here just because it's rebounding off of these levels. I'd rather wait for it to start to make the move and then get in. Very similar premise to what Bitcoin and some of the other names in crypto are doing. Right? So this is a trend line that I had drawn on Bitcoin and how it was bottoming. It doesn't look quite as pretty over here on the weekly. Works a bit better on the daily time frame over here. Just again, another loosely drawn trend line over here. Tempted to pop above. Tested it again on uh, yesterday and is back down again. So it's you can see like how prices tightening around this general area, right? Like, so price rebounded over here, ran up, found some resistance at that 100 day, that uh, thin orange line, uh, fell, rallied, found resistance around it again. So it made a series of it. So over here, right? Here's a low, there's a high. So it made a higher low and a lower high. So what's that spell? It spells chop. So it's continuing to move sideways, and then it's a matter of okay, which way is it going to do? Is it going to break out or break down? I'd rather be a little bit late to the party. Like I don't need to be the first one at the party, right? And so I'm just sitting there, like with a drink in my hand and awkwardly talking to somebody else that showed up an hour early. I'd rather be fashionably late, let it break out, let get some confirmation on the breakout, and then get in. And the same deal with Nvidia. Brian says, I've been trading for a while and looking to take my craft to the next level, especially from a mindset perspective. Brian, if you're trading stocks, then you'll probably enjoy our elite program, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. So email code@marwealth.net and we'll send you a discount and we'll send you some additional information on the program. Lee. Lee says, thoughts on crowd. Let's take a look at crowd. Crowd rallied up the crowd might be shortable. Shortable very soon. This is going to actually like I'm glad you brought this one up because this is has a very similar thesis to what Stu did to short Square. Right? So post earnings rallied hard off those lows, got right to a significant moving average, and then he got short a day later. Come over here to crowd. Different moving average, same thesis, right? Earnings, blasts off the lows, significant moving average. Maybe you don't short it tomorrow, but maybe like a day or two later. Quite interesting. Yeah, definitely going to keep this one on the radar as a potential short candidate. Fact. I'm writing it in my book. So crowd short. Yeah, no, we'll be discussing that one for sure inside our Discord community. Brian, I'll definitely email you guys. I mostly trade options, but I want to start building a stock portfolio. Awesome. And well, we do have uh, several traders in the community that do trade options. I personally, I use options for risk management purposes and leverage. We have a couple of traders that trade spreads. So it's a fairly good community for that as well. Um, But yeah, from these live streams, you see kind of how I trade. Like mostly, what I'm doing, like my personal trading is swing trading stocks. I'll do some position trades long term when the for the right opportunities, and I also trade crypto when the timing is right. Lee, Bros for long. Yeah, Bros was on my radar as well. I actually traded Bros maybe about a month or so ago. When was this? Oh, back in January. Yeah, back in January. This was good for a quick 2R trade. And like it hit 2R, pulled right back, and well, that was it. Right now, seems to be attempting to round out something over here. Yeah, this is another interesting one as well. Not sure if this qualifies as a cup. Let's see. One, two, three, four, fifth week of a potential cup-shaped base. Yeah, not bad. Like an early cheat, if we're going to look at it that way, like getting in over here, and that big. Yeah, you basically have uh, level of resistance around what is that, 52 and change, 52.27 over here. Yesterday the high was 52.30. Today the high is 52.42. Yeah, like maybe an entry point around 52.60. By the way, Lee and everybody else that's watching too, if you haven't gotten onto our newsletter yet, you should check out our newsletter. The newsletter is at marrowwealth.com slash newsletter, right? Or you could go to the link in my bio if you're following me on Twitter or on Instagram, marrowwealth.com slash newsletter, and we're giving away one free stock pick per week. Um, and I'm sharing the details for the trades that I'm interested in. So with this, like this would end up being a B level trade for me. The reason why, like I do like how it's coming off the lows over here. I do like the slight pickup in volume on the right side of the base. The thing that makes it a B versus a potential A level trade is this right here. The distance between the entry price of what I would look for, 52.60, and the place where I'd have my stop down here at 47.90. You see how it's almost 9%? That's more than I generally like in a trade. And in this kind of environment, um, yeah, it's a big ask. I would much rather have the it be closer to about 5% rather than 9%. That said, the average daily range of this is about 8%, so it's a maybe. Like I definitely want to take a closer look at this because if we could get a quick move like we did before, it might be worth it. And it's certainly a leader in the space, and it has some other things going for it too, with the way that the moving average is appointed and the way the stochastic is right now. Lots of things to like. So I'll write down bros as well. See, I get value from doing these live streams too. The guys make a lot of great suggestions. But anyhow, uh, yeah, for everybody that's watching, if you're interested in the Merrily program, definitely email us at the code at merrillwealth.net. And I will see you guys next week. I hope that you have a fabulous weekend and take care. God bless. Much love. Peace out. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below and become a part of the Merrill Wealth community. And make sure that you check out some of the other videos on the channel. They're exactly what you need to see. And leave a comment down below. I read all of them. Leave a comment.